I was there from the beginning. I watched it from the first episode, February 1, 1982, Late Night with David Letterman. Bill Murray was the first fantastic guest. I remember him singing and dancing to Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical. It's the show that changed my life. I tuned in every single night. It was an obsession for me. And it's the show that made me want to be a stand-up comedian. It was always a goal to do the Letterman show. And many, many, many years later, I was actually booked on the show in April of 2007. So they flew me out to New York to make my debut on Late Show with David Letterman. Or so I thought.
Simon Pegg, ladies and gentlemen. My thanks also to Kelly Ripa. Jim Short, who is scheduled to be with us on the program, will not be here, and we'll have him on just as soon as it's possible and convenient for him. He had a gig downtown. Got in the cab and left. So here comes. Thank you very much.
Well, here I am in the hotel. It's my first time not doing the David Letterman show. Got bumped. You know, at least I'm in New York, hanging about. You can see the city behind me, back there. Radio Shack.
Actually, a lot of comedians get bumped. It's something that just happens. They said they'd have me back as soon as they could. But I got a call a few weeks later from Eddie Brill, the comedy booker, and he said there was a spot open in May, and they wanted me to come back. I got to my dressing room. It's one of the larger ones up on the 6th floor, usually reserved for the musical guests.
10-minute warning, CBS Orchestra. 10-minute warning.
I really couldn't believe I was at the Ed Sullivan Theatre, and that I was about to do the Letterman show at last.
It's The Late Show with David Letterman. Tonight, former Vice President Al Gore, comedian Jim Short.
Now I'm upstairs, freaking out, and the nerves start kicking in.
Also, a very funny gentleman by the name of Jim Short is joining us, a talented stand-up comedian. That's the big program for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd been in my dressing room just going over the set in my head over and over. Then someone came to take me to the studio. It was like a dead man walking situation. Okay, time's up. Make it happen.
Our next guest is a very funny gentleman who is making his debut with us tonight. And here, look, here's a copy of his new CD. It's entitled Deep Beneath the Surface of the Earth. Wow. Very provocative title.
Telling you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very funny Jim Short.
There's nothing quite like standing on the stage of the Ed Sullivan Theatre, looking out into the blackness, hearing the crowd, hearing Dave Letterman laugh at the desk at your jokes. I did the Late Show with David Letterman. I mean, it was my goal. I was on there once, pretty insignificant. The show's got a 33-year history, but it meant everything to me.
Hi, Jim. That was very funny. Really enjoyed that. Jim Short, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. Hi, thanks to Al Gore and also the great men and women of the United States Armed Services who are here celebrating Freak Week.
I was on the Late Show with David Letterman, big time American television. And you know, every night there's movie stars, celebrity guests. People always ask me, well, who was on your episode? Who else was on there? And I get to tell them proudly, I was on with Al Gore. That was my show. And I did really, really well. I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting. I'm just going to tell you this. If you want to be hilarious on national television, have Al Gore go first. He was my global warm-up, you could say.
It's pretty much all been downhill since then.